This is Late Night Health, the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. Hi, I'm Mark Allen, and along with Dr. Greg Celaya, functional medicine specialist, we're going to take a look at sugar today and how it affects each and every one of us. Uh, Eating sweet things is something that I think is born into almost everybody, Dr. Celaya. We tend to love sugar and sweets, don't we?
Yeah, Mark, who doesn't love sugar? But 100 years ago, we as a society consumed about 4 pounds of sugar per year. Now we're up to about 145 pounds of sugar per year per person. I mean,
Wow.
the numbers are totally askew.
And where does that sugar come from? I mean, I remember growing up, we only had cane sugar, which was uh, considered, and I think it still is, more of a natural product than some of the other sugars that are available.
Yeah, well, you look at 30, 40 years ago, we went on that no fat, low fat diet, right?
Right.
And so what happened there is you have to increase something, and usually it was carbohydrates and most likely sugar. And so, you go to a store nowadays and you get a big gulp and it's just loaded. And table sugar is made up of two things. It's glucose and fructose. And they're both processed way different in our system. And you've heard of high fructose corn syrup, right?
Oh, yeah. Which has been renamed by the corn growers industry as corn sugar, I believe.
Yeah, well, anything to sell it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So high fructose corn syrup is a real problem. But first off, glucose. Glucose is simple. It's in our body. It gets absorbed, and about 80% of it goes to the musculature and the tissue. And whatever is not necessarily used can be stored as glycogen, right? So,
Right.
but fructose is stored way different. Fructose first has to go through the liver, and it's processed. And what happens is that if you have extra, so to speak, it can be stored as glycogen, but it can be spit out as triglycerides as well. And we all know what triglycerides can do to us.
Well, actually, why don't you refresh us? I know that triglyceride levels have been linked to cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, exactly. So fructose can affect triglyceride levels, which can affect LDL levels, which can increase visceral fat. You can increase blood pressure, insulin resistance, and even free radicals or DNA damage.
Wow. Uh, the cane sugar that I mentioned a few moments ago, is that different than the kind of sugar that we have today? Here in my house, I only have cane sugar if I'm going to use sugar at all.
Well, we suggest really not necessarily to even use sugar. There's wonderful sweeteners that are non-glycemic. So, for example, stevia. But you have to use everything in moderation. A patient called me yet the other day and asked me, "Hey, does stevia cause cancer?" And it's like, well, I think anything can cause cancer if it's not processed right. Oh, there goes the earphones. Let's just get rid
Ah,
of that one.
got it.
It's not processed right, number one. Number two, or if you overdo it. So it can be a problem.
I know that with me, I was at a market yesterday, and they were passing out samples of a protein drink. And as soon as I tasted it, and the guy was saying it's all plant based, there's no way, there's no dairy. I tasted it and I went, oops, there's stevia in it.
Yeah,
That,
well,
yeah. And
sure.
I'm just hypersensitive to stevia. It's super sweet and there's a funny aftertaste to me.
Yeah, some people complain of that, but if you have the right form, usually it's not a problem. But here again, protein drinks, there's not only carbohydrates that can cause blood sugar issues. Excess protein can cause the same thing.
Got it. Got it. Well, and they were sweetening it. He was trying to cover up the stevia taste with almond milk, which would be fine with me. If you want a quick breakfast, for example, and you want a protein drink that's all natural, that's healthy, that's got good protein, plant-based protein, I think, as a consumer, not as a healthcare expert, I think that would be fine. But the the taste of that stevia just really knocked me out. There's no way. I don't even remember the name of the product. Let's talk more about sugar. We get sugar from um, cane, sugar cane, beets. Are there other sources of just sugar, white refined sugar?
Well, the white refined sugar, sucrose, is made from glucose and fructose. And like I mentioned, they're both processed way different. The problem with glucose is that it's simply absorbed and broken down. And what it does do is increase your insulin levels because insulin helps get that sugar into the cell. And insulin has a whole bunch of other issues as well. So we end up with insulin becoming a problem. In the beginning, insulin can be anti-inflammatory, but it quickly becomes inflammatory. And you know,
And so you have to watch your insulin levels too much, and you're diabetic. You're
yeah,
not.
absolutely, absolutely. And it can cause inflammation, which is a big issue. Insulin can be related to PCOS, ovarian cysts. I mean, metabolic syndrome. I mean, the list goes on.
Uh, you mentioned stevia. One of the other uh, sugar substitutes that I've used, I only use it in things like tea, is agave syrup. Uh, uh, are there other sugar substitutes that are natural and don't increase insulin levels, don't have spikes, and don't mess with the body?
Well, yeah, there are, but you have to consider, are they increasing your fructose levels? When you increase fructose, you can have liver issues and you can increase different problems cardiovascular wise. So what happens is you overdo fructose, it decreases endothelial synthase, which decreases nitric oxide, which increases blood pressure, which increases uric acid and causes non-alcoholic liver cirrhosis,
All right,
which
can you say that again in English?
just one thing causes the other. So, you end up with, it's very common to see this non-alcoholic liver disease nowadays, fatty liver syndrome, and it's caused from sugars.
Wow. Uh, the You mentioned nitric oxide. There's been a big push to increase that in the body.
Well, yeah, because it regulates blood pressure. But here again, you're starting in the middle of a cascade. It's not just as simple as regulating nitric oxide. You have to look upstream, right? And here in this case, it's fructose.
Uh, Sugar is definitely addictive. Uh, uh, I've read and heard from other healthcare professionals that sugar is actually as addictive, if not more, than heroin.
Well, sure, sure. I mean, well, think about it. Your body lives off of it, right? Of course, it's going to be addictive. So, but it really depends how you start your day and what you're consuming. And hey, I want to share this with you. This
Sure.
this is my breakfast. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. What it is, it's a base of cucumber and celery. There's carrots, beets, kale, chard, dandelion greens, asparagus, red cabbage, sunflower sprouts, parsley, cilantro, turmeric, ginger, and whole lime. And all that is fresh.
Wow. So it's not, and even the asparagus is cooked. Nothing's cooked.
No, nothing's cooked. And believe it or not, it tastes pretty good.
I got to try it. Um, I'm not a big smoothie person personally. I had my breakfast this morning was egg whites, and I put a little kimchi on it.
Yeah,
And
well, you're different that way. You like kimchi, which is great, and it's
yes,
really great for you. But
most
if
people don't like it. It's true.
no, and why do you avoid the yolks? Tell me about that.
Well, actually, I don't normally because I love the yolks, and I won't do the egg whites again. The reason I did is we were cooking, and we had leftover egg whites, and so I did that. But it's the runny yolk is what makes the egg. That's where the taste is, and to me, that's where a lot of the nutrition is too, from what I've read.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. And there's so many people that come in and they're just doing egg whites and they've got it in their head that the egg and the cholesterol and all the rest of that nonsense is bad for your health. But if the egg's processed right, there's no issues. In fact, it's really great for you. Hit it right on the head with the egg yolk.
And it's cheap. It's inexpensive.
Well, it's less expensive if you buy just simply processed eggs, which I'm not going to consume. And we should do a whole show just on eggs at one point,
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
because the processing of it is a real problem. So for me, I want to get my eggs as close to nature as possible. And if I can get them from small farms or farmers markets, even better.
I have a problem. I not long ago I bought some organic uh, uh, eggs from a farmer's market. In fact, I think the farmer is in either Moore Park, California, or Camarillo. I don't remember. And they were about $6 a dozen, where a dozen eggs can be 99 cents at a supermarket. They are compliant. They don't have hormones, growth, anything in them. Uh, my problem with those eggs are the chickens probably are not humanely um, uh, uh, kept, where the $6 a dozen eggs are uh, uh, free range. They're not quarantined, if you will, and kept huddled together. So that is a problem to me. Is there really that much difference between those two eggs?
It's night and day, and you buy a dozen eggs for 99 cents. Come on, think about it. The grocer is making probably about 50% of that, right? And
Right.
so the distributors, and it's costing them almost nothing to produce those eggs. I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat eggs that cost almost nothing. And if most people get a dozen eggs for 99 cents, they don't have a problem eating a lot of them. And eggs are great food, but just like anything, you don't want to eat a lot of anything.
Right.
But for me, uh, if the cost is well worth it. I mean, to get organically grown, perhaps even grass-fed eggs that are free. The chickens are free. They're running around. They're
Eating
happy. I mean,
bugs.
eating, but whatever they got to eat to make
Right.
the egg, I'm okay with. I just don't want some man sitting there deciding exactly what they have to eat all the time. I don't buy it. It's
Got it.
you've got to go back to nature and back to how things were produced.
Well, even back to sugar. Sugar, the intake was a lot less even 50 years ago. Uh, and at 140 pounds per person on average per year, wow, we're burning ourselves up.
Well, yeah, and I mean, think about it. So I don't do any sugar. My family doesn't do any sugar. So what happens to my sugar intake in this calculation? Somebody else is consuming my sugar intake as well. But when it comes to seeing how healthy you are, one of the first things is that we look at is we always look at blood sugar, and we look at insulin levels, and we look at A1C. You've heard of A1C, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's A1C is a great test for me because when somebody comes in, they can tell me they're doing well, but A1C helps me understand what they've been consuming for the last 120 days. So they
Wow.
might tell me they're doing well, but I know different, and then we can make certain changes.
Got
Um,
it.
if there's blood sugar issues, there is nothing in the body that can be fixed. You have to fix the blood sugar first. It can affect every hormone, your thyroid, your adrenals. I mean, the list goes on.
Well, you have, I don't know if you have them right there, but you have gluten-free cookies that you produce. Do those have what do you use for sweeteners in that?
We use a lot of different sweeteners. You've had them, right?
Yeah, they're very
So
good.
uh, they have stevia in them. They have other different types of sugars, and overall, the glycemic load is very low. But did you taste the stevia in those cookies?
Sometimes I do, depending on the kind. I have tasted it.
Yeah.
But it's mild. And I was at the Natural Product Show. I think 2 years ago. They announced a new stevia without any aftertaste.
Yeah, and there's been some research that, and I haven't verified it, that says that even anything that makes you taste sweet, even if it's not glycemic, is still a problem. But we'll have
Oh,
to see
that's
what happens.
interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see what
Wow.
happens with that research because I don't know at this point. I don't think anybody does. But for now, stevia is great. You just can't overdo it.
I, as we wrap up our discussion of sugar, uh, and I'm going to plug a product that I like, but I want your opinion on Kind bars. Kind bars have a low glycemic level. They have Many other flavors are gluten free, and they taste good. A lot of them are nutty. They have a variety of different kinds of nuts in them. What's your feeling on those?
I mean, there's different varieties of kind bars, but you have to look at what's in them, number one, right? I want as
Right.
close to organic and natural as possible. And you also want to take a look at the carbohydrates, right? How much carbohydrate? I looked at a kind bar the other day and it was 22 grams. Well, I'd rather have something that's a bit less. A friend of mine was asking me about these probiotic drinks as well. And we took a look at a lot of them, and some of them were 7, 8 grams of carbs for a 8-ounce serving, and others were 1 or 2. So you have to look at those levels in addition to what's ingredient wise is in the bar itself.
Got it.
So to be straight, I passed on the kind bar the other day, but I haven't looked at every kind bar, so I don't know.
Right. I try to find the ones that are organic and have the low glycemic level, which also indicates, at least to me, that the carb factor is low as well.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. There's a lot of bars. I have found, I wouldn't say that there's any that are fantastic. There's some that are better for you than others, but I haven't found any that are fantastic tasting. I mean, I don't want, a hidden chocolate bar with protein. That's not what it's about.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's about taste, and it's a 3 o'clock in the afternoon boost because you didn't eat enough for lunch or didn't eat properly for lunch. Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But if it's bad food, I would rather starve than eat bad food. So
Oh
I don't
boy.
need to eat a bar just to fill me up if it's garbage. I just won't do it. I'd rather starve. In fact, it's better for you to starve anyway.
Wow. Maybe we could also talk about uh, doing cleanses um, and not eating for a
Yeah,
day or two.
absolutely. Intermittent fasting would be great, or just even fasting in general. What great benefits. But there's ways to do it, and that should be another show.
All right, we'll do that. I'm Mark Allen for Dr. Greg Celaya, who's a functional medicine specialist. If you want information on Dr. Celaya, he will give you a free 15-minute consultation over the internet on video. Just go to drcelaya.com, drcelaya.com, and look around there. There's lots of interesting articles. There's some audio, there's some video, and you'll be able to schedule an appointment or become a patient of Dr. Celaya's as well. Um, you can also visit us at latenighthealth.com, latenighthealth.com. Dr. Celaya, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you. You betcha.
Thank you. I'm Mark Allen. We'll see you next time. Have a healthy week. Bye bye for now.